Hi everybody, thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings dear ones, I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Impossible it is for me to give you information that is the kind of thing that must be felt, absorbed. But I try. And there may be some listening, some here today, that will understand this more than ever before. Because the energy on this planet is moving. It is moving to a place that is more commensurate with a gentle awakening of truth. A gentle awakening of truth. Not a revelation where you're marching the streets and carrying signs, but individual, gentle awakening. And the truth is this: what is the essence of God? And does it involve me? That is what you're asking. That's what the human is thinking and saying that is different. If you took a look at the demographics, that is the average of ages of human beings who might be coming to these meetings, or the ones that are interested in listening to this message, it's beginning to change. Whereas this was almost exclusively a 40-over club, it is starting to move. More and more young people who are old souls on this planet are awakening in ways they cannot explain. Sometimes they will never hear a Kryon channel, and it doesn't matter, because their awakening will take them on a study of God inside. It'll be an awakening that'll be something different than yours. And they'll start asking questions. And they're not even spiritual questions, not really. And the questions is there something bigger than I was told? I feel a largeness of my life. It's something I can't explain, coming right from their mouths. Am I here for a reason? I feel that there's a purpose. And they'll start an inward journey, an examination that may or may not bring them to any of this you hear today. But the conclusion will be the same. And they will begin to question that of their childhood information. And that then bothers them as well. It should bother you. It does. If you awaken to a truth that is different from that which your mother gave you, if you awaken to a truth that is different from a favorite instructor, or from a priest, a minister, a pastor, if you awaken to truth that resounds to you that is so different than you were taught, we told you this before, it's difficult. Some will be confused by it. It's difficult. Because it's almost a betrayal. We've said that before. It feels like you are moving into an area that is different than anything they taught. And you have to then wade through those emotions. You even have to ask yourself, should I even go here? It's so different than Mom gave me. It's so different than I learned. And to you, I'm going to say this: those who gave you that information gave it to you in the greatest integrity and love they had. This is what they felt. This is what they learned. This is what they gave you, thinking that you needed to hear as close to the truth as they had heard. It's not a betrayal. And if some of those are now missing from this planet and have gone on and passed on, I can tell you they're in the room right now saying, listen to this. I said that before. We didn't know. Listen to this. And what they're discovering is what we teach, and we have now for all of these years. The same information, meeting after meeting, given in different words. And that is this: the essence of the creative source, which you call God, was never human. That the consciousness, if God even has a consciousness, cannot be then measured by human standards. That the things that human beings experience, called human nature, belong to Earth, not the galaxy, not the universe, and not the creative source, which is God. How many times have I sat here saying, suspend all belief just for a moment. Throw away the box just for a moment. Put it back if you want to. But while you're sitting here in the chair, just throw it away. And imagine for a moment a consciousness that isn't really a consciousness. You see, it's beyond definition. It's love. And if you can imagine a love that is so pure, and the light is so bright within it, that it goes beyond anything you can possibly even imagine, it's not right yet. Now amplify that over and over, and you'll begin to feel and understand what the creative source is. We've said this before: love is the most powerful thing in the universe. It's a throwaway phrase because you'll find the humans saying it over and over just to emphasize how much they love you or they love the planet. You have no idea. The central source of all that is, that created all that is, that has complete and total control over all that is. If God had a hand, could wave it, and all things would change. Physics itself is designed by God. The way things work is God's design. If you don't like the word God, call it creator. But that which is the most prominent in there, if you could look inside it, is love. How many times have we given you the example of the mother who looks at their firstborn for the first time, and we say, if you think that's love, it isn't. It may give you tears to think about that feeling the first time, so pure it was to look upon the infant that was given to you, and realize just how beautiful and how unconditional. It just scratches the surface as to what that is in the center we call the creative source. And to think that the universe itself was created by this source, and that billions and billions of years took place where galaxies formed and planets around suns and the cooling and the life and all of that brings you to a human being sitting in a chair today that ponders what's out there. Well, ponder away, but I'll tell you what's out there. Love. We've said this: in the beginning there was love. That's all there was. In the blackness of blackness, that's all there was. There was love. If I told you there were multiverses, yours is just one of many. Could you see that which is teeming with life beyond anything you can imagine, in dimensions that you don't even know exist? They know about love. And slowly, the essence of God is felt by so many. This is the time on the earth for the shift. And the awakening of old souls has begun. And we've said this before: the awakening doesn't hook you into a religion. The awakening does not hook you into something suddenly where you were an atheist and now you're not. It starts to make sense of even the atheist logic of why they're an atheist. It starts to redesign a paradigm of God, of the Creator, and what might have happened here, which is beyond anything, truly, that is universally taught on the planet. Something so different and so special, so compassionate and so loving as the start of life. Life that would eventually have a choice. Life that would be composed of souls from the creative source. How about that? What if you were part of the love? What if your soul is eternal? What if it's been here as long as the source itself? That begs the question, what if the creative source called God, called love, split in some ways, magical ways, and you were involved in the split? Not a split like you think of it in a linear way, but a sharing that would go out where pieces and parts of that great love you can't even imagine that still were part of that, only they would come and be shared. And in the sharing, they find themselves in a body with your name. You got to start unlearning what you were told. We can put it to you in many ways. A beautiful little girl sits on a floor and mom starts to explain what mom thinks is so precious and so beautiful about God. And the little girl is all ears, and she's listening and watching her mom's lips and feeling what mother has to say. And she says, "Mom, let me tell you about God." And the more she talks, the more you would realize today, Mom hasn't got a clue. But she's doing her best. And here's what the little girl hears. God is the Creator Father. And that in heaven there were wars. There was a fallen angel, real bad guy, horns and a tail. He now represents everything bad and evil. And then he tells the little girl, and I hope you never meet him, but you might, if you don't do what you're told. And what you're told is there in that building over there. They've got some words for you to hear. It's what God wants you to do. Be careful, because there's going to be a judgment day where someday after you die, you're going to have to report, and there's going to be a list. And then that beautiful God who created you with all the love that's possible that you can even consider is going to torture you in hell forever. And the little girl is all ears. And her eyes are wide open. And that goes into her mind and etches itself in the syntax and the neurons of belief. And for some of you, that's your story. It comes with that which is born dirty. You don't have a chance. Born dirty. Mom doesn't have a clue, but Mom's doing her best, because that's what Mom's mom told her. And that's the prevailing truth, and it comes from a low consciousness understanding of the creative source. It's not anyone's fault. Don't blame yourself. Understand that with free choice, this planet has gone to that level where they will humanize the creative source. They'll put human nature and paste it on the face of all that is. The greatest love that ever was. Compassion you can't imagine suddenly becomes a dysfunctional human. The best you got. You got to unlearn this. And one of the things that you can do, dear ones, is to start reprogramming the subconscious, because that's where it lurks, right in the subconscious. That which you may not even be aware exists in your mind, those are the tapes that play. That's what Mom told you. That's what some of you have experienced. That's the fear that you might have had over the Almighty. Imagine being taught to be afraid of love. Imagine. And that's what's happened. Old souls, I speak to you now in this short channeling. I don't just want you to wake up to truth. I want you to wake up and reprogram your subconscious. And in order to do that, your conscious is going to have to come on board. And it will start reprogramming the subconscious with a truth that will invade you with light. Will wipe away all of the untruths, the low energy of anything you've been taught, which absolutely is not spiritual logic. How can you sit here and believe those things about the purity of the Creator, which loves you so much? And what was God doing while Mom was teaching that? Every word that would come out of her mouth, etched into that child's mind. I'll tell you, if God could cry, that's when the weeping would be. Love does that. Compassion does that. It will sit at the feet of a free choice human being and will weep at low energy. And that is what is changing. That's why a young person now who would not be in this meeting would start to wake up and say, I'm feeling different about everything. I'm feeling there's purpose. I'm feeling somehow I'm involved. And they be right. Every old soul right now is involved in the shift, an awakening to higher consciousness. It has nothing to do with religion. Higher consciousness is an awakening to each other. It's an awakening that says there is a confluence of coherence where human hearts are starting to come together and starting to see the truth of compassion, the value of how you treat one another, of life itself, starting to see the cracks, the dirt, starting to clean it up, starting to call things for what they've been and not be afraid of it, starting to love one another in ways they never have before, in a purer way. I'm not just talking about those who are allied as mates on this planet. I'm talking about families and non-families who look at one another and say, you know, you're a good person. I see God in you. I see the compassion in you. The difference in the old energy is circle your wagons and protect yourself. Compete for resources. Don't let anybody take anything from you. That's basic survival, and it's moving to the survival of compassion. And that is where human beings don't circle the wagons and protect themselves. Instead, they ally with one another and start to realize the value of peace and start to realize the value, literally, of love itself and what it generates. How many of you have passed others where you'll hear an argument or something is being said to someone, and all of a sudden you feel a cloud around you. There's a negative, there's a shield that goes up, and you can't believe what you're hearing. It actually permeates that which is dramatic. That's new. There was a time when that's just the way it works. You walk around and yell at each other, and you're going to get your way, and that's life. In some cultures today, it still is the way it is. But there's so much that's changing. So much that's changing. You're going to have to unlearn these things that were told to you by whomever, that were told in high integrity for the time, best they could give you. Mom, best they could give you. And if she's here right now, she would say, it's the best I had. It's what I was told. I want you to do something for me right now, and we don't do this very often. Dear ones, you were born magnificent. How does that feel to you? Born magnificent. Would you say these words with me? I am born magnificent. I am born magnificent. How does it feel to state that truth? Is it a blasphemy? Is it difficult? Is it against what your mom say? Would you say it again? I am born magnificent. How many times do you have to say that before your conscious mind agrees? Before the subconscious starts to be reprogrammed the third time? I am born magnificent. What you have just uttered 3 times is the truest truth of all. It starts there. It starts there. And if you have the magnificence of the Creator, your soul, in your biology, it's the first thing that you've got to cognize. And I'll tell you, everything comes from there. Everything comes from that. And it starts to grow. It starts to wipe away the lack of self-worth from everything you were told of who you're supposed to be. It redefines you, and you are doing the redefining. That's the power of the human being. You might say those words at least once a day in a quiet place in a mirror as you look. And you might say, I was born magnificent. And you might start to get the chills of validation that all human beings experience in some way, sometimes. There are those in the room who depend upon those chills to do their mediumship, to do their healing. They know of what I speak. That biology starts to cooperate with truth. And you start to look at yourselves and you say with a smile, I'm born magnificent. And then it graduates to I am magnificent in God's eyes. And then it gets real tricky when you look and say, I am a piece of God. Tricky only because that's not what you were taught. But that becomes the truth. And that's the platform from which you can launch compassion for others. That's the platform, not the ego. That is that beautiful love platform that gives you permission to look out and say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I'm going to help you, I'm going to give light to the Oval Office, I'm going to do these kinds of things that people will criticize me for because they're not in the right politics or whatever. They don't understand that this goes beyond any kind of opinion. It's light. It's light from the creative source. It creates a path where those who can see better, you can do that because you were born magnificent. That's the essence of God. The essence of God is what is in you, what is being discovered, and what you're awakening to. There is the beauty of life. And the more you start to cognize this, believe it, the more you start to believe it, the more your subconscious starts to come along and rewrite itself into what you were told, into something that is core truth for the universe, that is going to help others, change other humans, and make a difference. If you're awakening to an idea that there was something bigger, there is. If you're awakening to the idea that you're here on purpose, you are. If you're awakening to an idea that you're part of something bigger and there's something happening, it's all right there. It's a new earth, a paradigm that is developing for an old soul. That's who's listening. That's who sits in front of me. And it is beautiful. Let the negative, dark things of this planet slowly show themselves so that you can eliminate them. Let the ugliest, horrible things that are going on in the cracks of humanity show themselves so you can look at it and command that they go away. And society will agree and they'll disappear. Let the unconscionable things that are going on with children stop because they show themselves. And when they do, you'll remember this channel and say, he's right. Things are really starting to move into the light. And then you might even say, I'm so glad that I am here to see it, to work with it, because now I know. I was born magnificent. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. There is so much sacredness here. And the sacredness is generated by the intent of those in the chairs. Anytime a human being will gather with another human being and say, I'm here for one reason, I want to know more. I've heard some wild stories of perhaps things that are beyond my understanding that might change my life, might enhance those things that I would love to enhance. That's why I'm in the chair. And this creates a field in itself. Perhaps there are those of you who could feel that and have felt that and did feel that this morning when you walked in the room. Because of the numbers that are here, there is a field that is generated with intent that is so sacred and so beautiful. And it's seen. Oh, it's seen. You may have heard the premise that when you have a number of people gathered together, that there is enhanced not just abilities and power, but light itself. And with the intent that we are speaking of, it creates a field of light. Now we speak metaphorically, but consciousness truly is a part of the physics that you study today. Is it too much to imagine that intent could be seen multidimensionally? It might even have a color, dear ones. You're very attractive when you're here with intent like this. There are so many different kinds of intent, even here in the room. Even those listening. There's casual intent, I think I'll take a listen. There's intent that wants to cognize everything that is said. I want to know more because everything you've said, Kryon, has either taken place or is happening or is going to happen, and I'm on board. And between those kinds of intent, there's all the shades in between. And dear ones, all of them are appropriate. The one who simply wants to take a look is doing so with free choice. You may take a look and leave and never come back. But in that crack that you took a look, you got to see and feel the idea that you're sacred. And those who wish to cognize what is here and what is coming may enjoy the channel tonight. We told you in the channel before that the title would be this: Who do you think you are? Now that's an expression that humans would often use as an accusation. But the question in the form of the channel tonight is real. And the reason it's being asked at all, right now, the reason, you'll see in a moment. Because who you think you are shapes everything to come. Everything. Let's start this way. Let's start with the objections that some light workers have had about some of the concepts I have presented. And the objections are these: they don't work. Dear Kryon, I've heard you talk for now 20 years, and you've said you must speak to yourselves. You talk to your structure. It's listening. And I have. I've got this issue, and I've been working on it, and I talk to myself, and nothing happens. I've only one thing to conclude. Doesn't work. Dear Kryon, I've heard you talk about compassion as being the key to changing those around me, to changing myself, to all of these things. I've tried so hard to be compassionate. Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. Have you got something else? Dear Kryon, I've heard you speak of God inside. I don't think so. Certainly isn't in my life. I'd like it to be. I really would like it to be. I listen to you and I'd like it to be. But then you finish and nothing's there. I'm about to expose you, ones who would ask the questions. And I ask you, who do you think you are? If you had to draw a list of who you think you are, what's it look like, dear human being? And I will start the list for you. And it's fraught with bias, misunderstanding, disbelief, ignorance, and more. And you don't know it. You don't even know it. It goes like this. Who do you think you are? Okay, I'm male, I'm female, I'm so many years old. Stop. You are, really. That's how old you are. I see you wrote that down in big letters. That's how old you are. So let's discuss age for a moment. What comes with the statement, how old you are? And I'll tell you, a tremendous bias. Right away, you are acting out how old you're supposed to be based upon information that was given to you about others that age. You realize that, don't you? So however old you are, first of all, you're older than you used to be, and you don't like that. That's a bias in itself. Aging is a bias. If you don't like it, it's a bias. You think living for 900 years was a typo in Scripture? Or was it true? How did they do that? And I'll tell you, they never said, I am so many years old. Because age meant nothing. They exist. In a body, year after year, that will age, if you even want to use the word, on its own schedule. But if you are biased enough to put limits on it, you'll go right to the place where medicine says you ought to be. That is one of the biggest biases you have. Who do you think you are? Stop telling people how old you are. Do you realize what this carries with it? If any of you watch your media, have you watched the ads of how you're supposed to feel at a certain age? And what drugs you're supposed to take at a certain age because of how you're supposed to feel at a certain age? It's programming. You are programmed to age poorly. And I just said it. This doesn't simply come from media. It comes from your parents. It comes from school. It comes from society. If you didn't have a stigma on how old you were, would your chemistry be different? Bingo. Yes. Because consciousness is guiding cellular structure. How you believe is being absorbed by your body and acted upon. I'll say it again. You show up at the restaurant called life, and the menu is there, and you give an order. And then you start aging poorly. Dear ones, your food has arrived. You just ordered it, and here it is. It's as simple as that. It's on the menu, and you ordered it. And so you seem to feel a certain way because you have a certain age. Perhaps you have been told aging is a bad thing. So you continually look into the mirror to see if it's a bad thing. And your body knows what you're looking for and cooperates. It's a bad thing. Who do you think you are? Number one, I'm an ageless human being existing on this planet magnificently. I'm an ageless human being existing on this planet magnificently. And my body hears every single word I'm saying. And my cellular structure is clueless on how old I am. So don't give me a birthday party with candles, because we're not counting. I can't tell you how much that would do for you. Who do you think you are? Well, Kryon, I have a genealogy that doesn't really work for me. You see, here's what's happened in my family. Stop. You have just now told your body that any predispositions it might have with genealogy that is inherited is going to manifest. Period. That's what you told your body. And here it comes. Did you know what has been proven? Your genealogy is not in charge. Oh, it will come with inheritance. It will come with perhaps what you will call predispositions. Now, predispositions are there. They may even manifest. But dear ones, that's only if nothing happens around them. The cells of your body are designed to listen to the boss. The cells of your body are designed to listen to the boss. They are ready to be programmed. And the consciousness that you give them is the programming they will respond to better than anything else on the planet. You can program yourself out of any inheritance. Did you know that? Just like you can program your age, and the amount that you age is programmable. The amount of energy you have is programmable. And the programming to your cells comes from that which we call intent. There it is again. Consciousness, intent, can program a human being so that they can last longer, not be attracted to disease, come through life in a way that is spectacular in its peacefulness and its beauty and its elegance, instead of having to suffer through it. Number 3, you don't know what's happened to me, Kryon. No, but you just told your body that whatever has happened is just awful. And that just means that whatever happens is going to age you, and it's going to make you a victim. You programmed yourself to be a victim. And if you didn't, others have. And it just depends upon who you listen to about who is God, what the relationship is, or whether you were born dirty or magnificent. Programmed to suffer. Who do you think you are? Well, so far, you're aging badly, your genealogy is horrible, and you're a victim. Who do you think you are? That's who you think you are. I could go on and on. But here's what I want to show you. If that's who you are, how do you think that one thing that you're going to change is then going to correct everything? So the ones who say, well, that doesn't work, Kryon, give me something better, have already decided who they are. And they're used to a system that is linear. You may call it allopathic, it's not the right word. A system that is linear says this: no matter who you are, no matter what you've suffered, no matter what your genealogy, if you take a pill, it will help. Doesn't matter who you are, what you've done, it's going to help. And of course, you may have to take it again and again, but you get help. That's not this way. It's not the way it works, dear ones. Not with spirituality. The truth is this: how you think you are and what you believe you are is the precursor to all of the things I teach working. Did I say that correctly? You've got to change your belief before any of these things are going to come to fruition in your life. If you're going to talk to yourselves, you can't give me a list that says, here's who I am. Now I'm going to talk to myself and it's going to change everything. You've got to start at the beginning. And the beauty of this teaching is this: once you start to cognize the fact that you are magnificent in the eyes of God, of nature, you belong here, everything starts to snap in place. Because truth has that about it. It rings in your body. The cellular structures will, if they could talk, they will say, well, it's about time. What do you have for us today? What's your order today? What's on the menu today? How about health and peace and you name it? What about a system where the years don't matter? There's no stigma anymore that your body has to do something at a certain time because you've assigned numbers to it. This is not true. It isn't. And so in this channel, the beauty of the message is this: that when you begin to realize who you are, things start to chain react and they affect others' things in benevolent ways. It's almost like the truth rings in your cellular structure to such a degree, in such a way, the strings on a guitar, for instance, that are tuned together, and you pluck one and the vibration affects the other, and it comes into tune and affects the other, and it starts to vibrate and come into tune. And soon the body gets it. And then all the things you've been telling each string for all these years and all these points, 1, 2, 3, 4, they start to drop away. And you start to realize that just wasn't right. That wasn't right. Here's something we brought up before. This is important, dear ones. It has to do with the integrity of knowledge. This is important. Some of the most profound things you may have learned from your instructors, from your priests, through your shamans, are now starting to drop away in their accuracy. And in that, you feel you will betray them if you cross over to a new truth. That is very real. And you will say, well, but my parents gave me this. And it's what I believe. The mom and dad, they gave me the best they could. It's what I believe. I really loved this pastor I had, and he was just the best man. He's gone now, but I'll always remember what he told me. And that's the way I live my life right now. And suddenly we come along with a whole different idea that goes beyond any of that. And many won't move off that peg because of this. The integrity of the people that you loved who gave you truths that now are starting to slip away. And how do you get through that? Well, there are several ways. Number one, if they're deceased, they now know better. They're here, they're cheering you on. But number two, in your memory, they were giving you in full integrity the best they had. The best they had. And there's nothing wrong with that. If they had what you know today, do you think that they would give that to you? They would. So there's nothing shameful at all or betraying about moving forward and accepting a bigger truth. You control your biology. You control not only how you age and how fast you age, but what happens chemistry as you age. This is so important because part of the scenario is how disease would attach itself to you. I've told you before that as human consciousness starts to evolve to a higher level, it will change the entire body. Because all of your cells are receptors and listening for instructions. And a higher consciousness will give higher kinds of instructions. And in that, eventually, there will be a body that will not accept disease because it's smarter than it used to be. You all understand that you have something called the smart body. And again, I'm going to give you the example of how consciousness works, like homeopathy. You accept homeopathy. Interesting, isn't it, that the fact that this country doesn't have much homeopathy is political. And it's not what you think. It doesn't really have to do with your medicine. It has to do with what happened with the English. When you became Americans and won that war, by the way, you did, you threw away everything European. You threw away their accent, you threw away their medicine, you threw away their religion. You didn't want anything to do with the Church of England. On and on. And part of that was homeopathy. And today when you go to Europe, it's everywhere. And here, it's nowhere. Let's talk about that. Not the fact that it's anywhere you want to find it, dear ones, in your country. You can find it. But the idea of it, it's a conceptual idea that works with the body. Again, we tell you this. Listen to this and understand the logic. A tincture is a design of a minuscule chemical that would send a signal to the body of what the one using the tincture is asking for in healing or peace. Not limited only to chemistry. And the science will look at the tincture and say it's too small for a chemical reaction anywhere, anytime. It's simply too small. Therefore, it cannot do anything chemically. And they're right. They're right. And yet it works. So here is the answer to why it works and the truth about it, which will tie right into the theme of who do you think you are? A tincture under the tongue is an instruction set that's designed that under the tongue, sublingually, the body receives and acts on. Did you get that? So no chemical reaction. It is an instruction set, elegantly designed as that which is instructions to the body on what to do. And then the body does it. And homeopathy works. All right, turn the page. I've just shown you something. I've just shown you proof. The body is listening. The cells want instructions. And you can do it several ways. And one of them, proven, is homeopathy. And the other one is with consciousness. What about consciousness, elegantly designed, through words that you would say or thoughts that you would generate when you answer the questions, who do you think you are? Because the body receives the instructions that you give it through everyday life. Are you a victim or not? What's your genealogy like? How old are you? I tied this into this morning when I said, I want you to forget everything you were told. Everything that would then posture who you think you are. And start over. You want to write a list? Do it. Read it out loud? Do it. Let the body hear it? Do it. I am an ageless human, magnificent, here on purpose to create light. My genealogy is controllable and programmable. And I give it instructions daily. And you go on from there. The things that happen in my life, I have brought to myself. And now, in that I understand it, I will no longer bring negative things into my life. What are your weaknesses? Don't list them. I am afraid of this or that. And instead, you'll say the opposite. These are things that used to bother me, which I have conquered. And your body hears it and sees it. And they are simple things. They're habits that you can cure instantly. As easy as my partner did with being seasick all of his life. And in one session, he was no longer. Dear ones, this is the power you have. And it's not simply about ridding yourself of some awful disease. It's everyday life. One of the attributes you might say, I get angry easily. If you said that, and you think that's you, you will get angry easily. I have buttons that people press when they talk about religion and politics. My mother bothers me. I have trouble with my family. And the body hears it all. That's who I am. Who do you think you are? That's who I am. And you think you can come to a meeting and hear something about how to correct this or that and try it and it's going to work? It isn't. Until you start knowing who you are. Coming along with the program shouldn't shock you. Truth is beautiful. You're none of those things you thought you were. The idea of having trouble with this person or that person is reprogrammable. Honestly, I want you to try it. We've said this over and over. To walk into the cauldron of drama that used to bother you with a new attitude and watch what happens when you tell your body, these things are not going to bother me or hurt me. I'm going to have peace and I'm going to see God in those people. That's what I'm going to do. And it takes practice, doesn't it? But it works. Have any of you noticed that when you start doing that, the people that bother you leave? Because they're not getting the reaction anymore. If they can't leave because they're related, they stop bothering you. Because they're not getting the reaction anymore. You've disconnected the button. And so you can stand there and start erasing the things on your list. This person bothers me. I can't do this. I can't do that. And pretty soon you see you have a clean slate of magnificence. And you start to realize, I'm in control. I really am in control. And then you can start talking to yourselves. And then you can start doing the things that we have told you about over and over that work and they work and they work. But you can't just walk in as a victim with diseases, knowing their genealogy is awful, aging badly, and expect to plug in these things and have a miracle. Is that offensive to you? Or does it make sense? The biggest one, I said 4 times already. I am born magnificent. I'm here on purpose. I'm here for a reason. I can manufacture light. If there are enough like me on this planet, we'll all manufacture light. And the whole planet is going to change. What about that? Maybe you came here today to hear that. Who do you think you are? I am talking to old souls who can do everything I've said. You've been here and you've done that. You have an Akash that is filled with wisdom of how things work. What I've just given you is not pablum for the soul. It's advanced. But I'm talking to those who I should be talking to, who know of what I speak. I'm in Kryon in love with humanity. And so it is.
For watching this, I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. It's not just symbology that the 1-1 is a new start. There are many ways of interpreting the numerology of the 1-1. One way is this: it's always the same master number, 11. And 11 is indeed enlightenment. So you might say that every single first of the year, every single 1-1 event, if you have one, is going to have the same kind of an energy. And that would be a start, a new start. It's a 1. Not only new beginnings, it's a double 1. It's also, of course, a master number, which means that it is very important, more than just regular numbers. There are some numbers, however, that stick out. One of them is a 5. You will probably hear more about that later, and that means change. This last year, 2020, is a year that we have spoken of over and over. My partner has been questioned about it, and it's because of what you know as the virus. There will be those in the future who remember 2020 very, very vividly, stick in their mind for the time that everything changed. We have told you in the past many channels about what this has meant and why it has occurred and why now. We've also challenged you to think about this, that this particular virus, the way it was treated and what occurred, is really out of place. Viruses have been here for a long time, some of them very active, some of them very dangerous. You've had some of them, and you know even their names. You have up to 20,000 people in the air all of the time flying between countries. What are the odds and the chances that you never had a pandemic until now? It's completely out of place. It's counterintuitive to everything you had in place or you've experienced. Your planet has been ripe for this all along. And yet this was the year, this 2020 year. And it started early, and now it's ending. People have said, Kryon, if you could see what's in the field, what's next? And I'm going to give this year a name in a moment. And the name I'm going to give it will tell a lot, because of what I'm going to tell you is in the field. The first question so many ask is, say, when is it going to be over? Because even as we speak on 1/1, it's still there. The answer is, in 2021, indeed, the light will come on. The end of the tunnel will be revealed. There will be more issues. There will be more conspiracies. There will be more difficulties. But eventually, you will have a new normal. That's coming, dear ones, and you know it. If you take a look at the astrology, which almost always gives hints with human consciousness, human activities, a roadmap that you can either look at or not as you choose, you take a look at the months of March and April as almost a coming out party from 2020. So those are the times I'm predicting. It will start then making the change from the old normal to the new. And the new normal is going to really be something, dear ones. You've learned a lot in 2020, and so far you really don't know what you've learned because you haven't seen the discoveries you'll make. And the discoveries you're going to make are multiple. When you stop the world and you stop economies and you change everything, it starts to expose things that never were exposed. Because when you stop that which always was and always worked a certain way, those kinds of things seem to float to the surface, especially when you have a civilization that talks among themselves on a regular basis. We talk about social media. We talk about the ways you communicate where very, very little can remain secret. And here come the secrets. This was happening all along, or that was happening all along, but when you stopped it, you didn't see it, and now you do. And your reaction will be, it's got to change. You've already seen some of the changes and some of the reactions and some of the civil unrest of things that are already in the works that will not then go back to the way they were. Dear ones, there are a lot of things that are going to change now and stay changed. This is good news. All because of 2020. One of the biggest ones, the beginning of the revelation of the virus. How it came to be. You still don't have the story. Not the real one. What happened after that? Was it treated correctly or not? Will you do the same thing the next time? Is a full lockdown what you should do, or should you simply protect those who need protected? All of these kinds of things will be a revelation. Wisdom. The way to work it again if it happens. It will imprint some people with fear. Get ready for that. I've said in the past that there will be those who will wear masks for the rest of their life because now they're afraid of all things, every germ, every bacteria, because it has had that imprint on them, and they've lost friends because of it. This is something that's going to carry over in a way that counselors will be working with for a long time. But the biggest things that you're going to see are the revelations of truths you didn't know. I have said this before, and I said it when this first began. Governments may change because of what you're going to find out. Secrets being revealed. Dysfunctions starting to show. You might say there's dysfunction everywhere all the time, and it's going to continue. That is what is going to be revealed as different. You're going to want solutions. It's a time of solution. But the name I'm going to give for this year, I always name every year, dear ones, is Revelation. I sat in a chair in 1999 in December and named the year of 2020 the year of change. This 2021, is going to be the year of revelation, as you'll see. There's going to be a lot of good things that will reveal themselves, not necessarily to be good as they be revealed, but as good because of the solutions you're going to make. A lot is going to come out of COVID that you didn't expect, that will change this planet. This happened, dear ones, after 2012, during the new energy, during a new consciousness, so that you could see things finally for what they were and make the appropriate adjustments. Consciousness is starting to raise, and regular humanity is starting to raise the bar of what they will want and expect and create, throwing away what doesn't work and keeping what does. It's a good time to celebrate this new year of enlightenment. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. I would like to continue the subject of connection that was started today in the last channel that I did. There are so many questions that humans would have about this seemingly intangible idea of a creator, of God, of spirit, of a source that is beyond your imagination, but one that somehow you're directly connected to. Hard for you to believe, truly, that there is an entourage, if you want to call it anything, a group, if you wish, around each of you all of the time, and that group knows your name. How many times have we said the name is not the one you think? The name is of a soul group. The name is bigger even than you can imagine. The name itself exists in light. And the name is not an identifier. The name is a descriptor of magnificence and speaks of a soul group in this galaxy that belongs to Earth. If I could summarize that, I would say, God knows you. And this, dear ones, has to be realized or trained or somehow gotten across to most human beings. And the reason is common and obvious. And I will go into this yet again.
the idea that humans have that everything around them that has intelligence echoes a human's intelligence. When you have a pet, and the pet cannot understand, of course, your language, but they understand your emotion. You talk to them as though they understand everything. You project humanism on the animal to make them feel better or whatever. The animal has no idea what you're doing, but they can feel the love that you have. Dear ones, that's the human looking down, but when the human looks up, we have told you before, an issue occurs. I'll call the issue God in a box. And the box is a human box that God exists in. For then the human projects everything that is human nature onto the Almighty. And God then is portrayed simply as a superhuman. But that human somehow has anger and disappointment and judgment, as well as love, of course. I've told you that every civilization on this planet has done the same thing. Yours has as well. I've also told you, you are number 5. You are also the civilization that would be present during the precession of the equinoxes and make the change. Other civilizations before yours have gone through similar things. We don't speak of that yet, because most humanity doesn't believe anything happened before them. Before the 6,000 or 7,000 years that you're told you've been here, when actually it's more like 50 to 60,000. Would it shock you if I told you that some of the inventions you have, the marginal ones, but important ones, such as electricity, was not only present early in your civilization, but in the civilizations before yours? And the reason, because it's easily discoverable. Nature produces it. And anyone watching and looking and interested with an inquiring mind will discover it eventually. So you're not the first. And it leads to things which I'll mention in just a moment. But what I want to tell you is that you still have a model for everything, and it's you. Communication is interesting with humanity. Let's talk only about your civilization and what happened when. So interesting. You think you're so technical. You are. What if I told you, however, that long before the telegraph or the radio or the telephone, you had a system of communicating at the speed of light 20 miles at a time? You may laugh. All they had to do was climb a mountain and give smoke signals to the next mountain. Communication at the speed of light 20 miles at a time. One mountain would talk to another, would talk to another, would talk to another. The language perhaps was a little rough, not many words, but it was communication. It was needed. The dream of all humanity always was instant communication. In a very early time, if you wanted to send a message to someone you knew in a town or a village that was far away, the system was to write a note, get on an animal of some kind, and ride the animal to the next town. And that became the mail. Today you laugh at how slow that might have been, for sometimes you'd say hello in a letter, and 3 weeks later you'd get a hello back. And that was as good as it got. In your civilization, talking about the 1700s or so, along comes a system of electricity. You called it the telegraph, where you could start then sending messages through code, long distances. 100 years later, it led to radio. And then the inventions began. But suddenly you could talk, and those a continent away could hear it in real time. Some thought that was just about as good as it would ever get. Then you could do it with pictures. And now, dear ones, with simple devices you carry in your pocket, if you have the right equipment on the other side, you could talk to the planet, and they could all hear you at once. The secret, of course, is having the correct equipment, the correct connection, and that which is needed in today's world with that which you call the net. Wiring it to everyone so everyone would have the correct equipment. And now, finally, one human could talk to everyone and they could talk back. That's how far you've gone. But even today, you didn't extrapolate that technological improvement onto God. Do you realize that? You're still sending letters. Now you might say, well, wait a minute. That's not true. I can pray and I know God hears me. Yes, but dear ones, you've always felt it was one way. Because you never felt that God could hear you enough to give you an answer immediately. It was either passed down somehow or realized in some fashion or got dysfunctional somewhere along the way. I mean, the Greeks were doing it. They were sending messages through prayer to their gods who they made dysfunctional so they would be more human. In other words, it continues even today that who you are as humanity is then placed upon God. And this idea of God in the box is as follows. There's no technology yet high enough to have a real-time communication with Spirit or God, where you could have a back and forth message at the speed of light. It simply is not acceptable. Most of humanity has to go through some kind of an interloper that translates because they have the ability or the training or the gifts of being able to take your message and get it to Spirit and then have it come back in a certain way. We told you this morning that it gets even worse than that because it's often accompanied with steps of achievement or even funding in order for you to get a message, a connection to the creative source. Dear ones, this is truly understandable because this is the only model you have, and that model is yourself. And so if there's an almighty God someplace in a box somewhere, in order to get that place, wherever it is, there has to be all manner of things that you do in order to achieve that communication. We told you this morning that truly you've got the equipment already inside, and that communication is instant. You had that even when you were sending letters with animals and writers. You had that at the beginning, but you didn't understand it because you simply applied it to the way you communicate. What's interesting is as you got a communication that was as it is today, you didn't then update it and think, well, maybe the Creator has inventions as well. And even today, for most humanity, it is difficult to speak directly to the Creator. My message is this. We're going to continue just a short amount from the idea that you have and always have had the correct equipment and connection and net, or whatever you want to say it, in order to have 100% speed of light, connections beyond speed of light to the creative source, because the creative source knows you. Another interesting thing about mythology, spirituality that humans have, you have no trouble at all, truly, believing that God can hear every human being all at once through prayer. You, by the way, then put this on to a mythological creature that you have who can do the same thing, and that's Santa Claus. No matter who you are as a child, Santa can hear all of the requests at one time. Of course, you did also place the other thing on Santa Claus that you placed on the Creator. You better be good, or you don't get the present. You see where you go with this. You don't really go all the way. Even if you believe that you can communicate, there's still the idea, what does God think about it? Is it possible that spirit can be frustrated? The answer is no. That is a human emotion. Anger, no. That is a human emotion. Well, wait a minute, Kryon. You said that spirit can have compassion. Isn't that a human emotion? No, dear ones, that's a creator emotion that you get by being a human. Love, compassion, benevolence, beauty. What you studied today in coherence and putting things together, all is from the creative source. Humor, from the creative source. The creativity of music. The idea of harmonies causing emotional effects and sending you into coherence right from the creative source. And all the other emotions that you dream up or you have, dream up in that you paste them on the Creator, is something you have, not the Creator. Now, where am I going? Once you get to the place where you realize you don't have to climb stairs or go through someone else, that you can sit in your chair, magnificent, and say, Dear Spirit, I know you're with me. Dear Spirit, I know you're here. Dear Spirit, I expect benevolent things in my life, and things start changing. Once you get to that stage, dear ones, you simply threw the switch. Because from now on, you get real communication and results. Let me begin with just one or two things. God is not in a box. Let us say, for instance, you are a healer. And for so many years, you've had the gifts and the tools of healing. And let us say, for many years, there has been frustration because they either don't work well or they work too well or you cannot control them. And this would be because those gifts are a spectacular, advanced energy that most humans do not have. It even frustrated the shamans of old. That sometimes the healing occurred and sometimes it didn't, and that got them in trouble because those around them expected certain things in linearity, and that's not what the gift does. Let's say that's you. How do you think spirit reacts to this? What's really happening there? Let me tell you. You have an entourage around you. And every single one of those loves you dearly, knows your name, knows the soul that you are, and is watching you flounder because you think God's in a box. Even if you believe you can communicate, you don't think God cares enough to work with you on the issue. And in that sense, you might go a lifetime or decades with an entourage around you begging you, why don't you just ask and work this out? Because you are in communication. The line is open, the switch has been turned, and all you think is it's good enough to talk. You don't understand. It's good enough to resolve things that are multidimensional. It's good enough to change your life. But you've only gone to first base, as they say. You just threw the switch. Now you can talk. What if I told you this? That box you think God is in is inside you. Right now, to that healer, I will say this. You have the ability to work on this and design your gift. So all it creates is consistency, benevolence, beauty. That you can control the things that are beyond that which you thought were controllable, because they were multidimensional gifts and others didn't have them. You thought they just were, didn't understand. You are the designer. They landed in your lap so you could design them. Imagine the cook somehow getting all the ingredients falling out of the sky. And there they are with all of the ingredients around them. And they're so frustrated that the ingredients don't make sense. And then suddenly somebody informs them, well, why don't you cook them? And they go, I can do that? And so the ingredients then become that which go into the meal, which then makes sense, and that is nourishing. But you never thought about cooking them. You never thought you were in control enough to design the pieces and the parts of the gifts you got. Every healer on the planet should know this. Not too long ago, we gave you a message that if you are a healer or you have any kind of gifts that are above that which you would call 3D or even 4D, that they're going to increase. That in this light-dark relationship, suddenly you're going to find yourself with an increased potential, and you're going to see things you never expected, double, triple, even more. Did it ever occur to you it might be nice to control them? Or are you just going to let them fly away? Or come out at any time? That's what would happen unless you understood the beauty of the design that you have around that which you have as a beautiful gift. Okay, Kryon, you got my attention. I'm a healer. Would you give me something practical? How do I design it? How do I cook the meal? Dear ones, you have got an open communication with an entourage who knows your name and sits there when you're asleep looking at you. I want you to have a communication. Dear entourage, dear spirit, thank you for these marvelous gifts. It's time for me to design them. Give me the intuition and the energy that I believe in that helps me to know what to do in order to suppress the things that need suppressing and release the things that need releasing, and the timing of it. And I want you to repeat this as often as it takes for you to believe it. It really only takes one time, dear ones. You're heard right away. And then the process becomes this. You start to get the intuitions. And you start expecting them. Then they start to work. Then you want some more. Then you start expecting more. And it's a process, like exercising a muscle that you practice and practice. And pretty soon you realize, with the help of the entourage around you and God that is not in a box, who has always been there waiting for you to ask, that it's working. It's working. Healers of this planet, if you're listening, I want to tell you something. You need to start designing what you have. for the new energy. And when I say designing, I am talking about you with your gift, specifically having a pattern of benevolence and control that is sacred and belongs to you, so that you can walk into a place and know exactly how that gift is going to work. That's necessary. It's needed. And it won't work as long as you think that all you've done is thrown a switch and that God isn't looking. Spirit knows you so well. Whoever you are sitting in this group or listening to these words, I have news. That there is a pattern for each of you to help you drop the fear, to help you advance in things that you didn't think you could advance in, to get control of your biology. All of these things have your name on them. It's not too much for Spirit, dear ones, to do this to millions at the same time. That's the spectacular energy of consciousness of God. Don't limit what you think is possible just because you don't believe you're in touch to that degree. You are. That's the invitation. If you think God is too far away to hear you, it's going to be an issue. But if you think you can whisper and be heard and loved by the eternal creative source, then you're on the right track. Dear Spirit, help me to shape my life in a way that's going to work, because you know me better than me. My higher self, my soul on the other side of the veil, the entourage, whatever that is, I realize it's all there to help me right now on this planet during the shift, so that I can live longer, I can be peaceful, I can deal with the little problems that are coming along my way almost every day, and that I can design a reality that is beautiful for me, not for anybody else but me. That's the individualness of the beauty of the love of God. Are you getting this? Bigger than you think, in this light, easier than you think, but it's not that which you've been told. So for some of you, it's harder. For some of you, it's easier. But dear ones, for all of you, it's possible. This is the message, and will continue to be the message from this man in the chair. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. "30 years ago, I came to my partner in a very cryptic way. To him it was frightening, but he got over it. There are those who would ask the man, the engineer, what was the turning point? When you had all of the logic that said this could not be, you had all of the fear from those around you who had said, be careful, it's evil. And yet you went anyway. What was the transition? What convinced you? I'll tell you this, I knew the man well enough to know what would win him over. He wasn't ready for it. No amount of logic can ever surpass love. It cannot. And when he sat in the chair over and over, he had the most amazing love wash he had never had before, ever. When
In his younger days, indeed, he went to organized religion, and he found love there. He found love there. Kept him there. But he never experienced anything like Spirit could give him. When he sat in the chair all alone. And that's what convinced him above logic. Love has no logic. Dear ones, you know, you can't explain it. And we've said it before. It's kind of funny to think about it. Two people, one staring into the eyes of the other, they're both taking a deep breath, and one says finally to the other, I love you. And the other one says, what do you mean by that? Would you explain it? And you don't. You can't. And you wouldn't. You all know that even human love has attributes that are so beautiful. It can cause anxiety at certain levels where you cannot sleep at night. There's too much love. Falling in love is the most beautiful things that humans can do. And you can do it with each other, and you can do it with an animal, and you can do it with God. Falling in love is almost eyeball to eyeball. It's a relationship that you have that you can't explain. You can't explain it. Some people may ask you what happened at this meeting, and you can't explain it. You might say, well, I learned something. And when they say, well, what do you learn? It's tough, isn't it? What if you learned that love is so big that it changes your own heart with you? What if love was so big that it goes beyond anything you can even explain to anybody? But you come out feeling different. What would happen if all of a sudden you found that you had something that you never thought you had before, that you were loved in a way you never thought you were loved before? You'd take pause, perhaps. You'd think about it, and some would even weep in gratitude. It's not that God loves you. I'll tell you about oneness yet again. If Spirit, God, is the master creator, the master physicist, the master biologist, the one who has orchestrated life on this planet, then that entity, that beautiful consciousness, knows every plant, every weed, every leaf, every grain of sand on the earth. Not just in a linear way, but in a multidimensional way. The creator of it all. And you can't just say, well, I discovered that God loves me. I'll tell you what you discover. In the oneness of everything, you discover that everything loves you. Have you ever met a tree hugger? Oh, I'm sorry, there are some here. And perhaps you were a tree hugger before you ever got interested in anything spiritual. Perhaps you were the ones that said, well, you know, my spirituality is in the forest. That's where it begins. Because you go into the forest and you feel the unconditional love of nature for nature. You realize you're part of the system of nature. And when you walk next to the tree, some of you can feel the consciousness of the age, of the wisdom, of nature itself. And you say, I'm home. This is where I should be. This is where I belong. And this becomes your church. And rightfully so. It is the beginning of the understanding of oneness. If you ask the tree hugger, does the forest love you? And the tree hugger would say, that's why I go there. Yes. I can go there for solace, and I can breathe the air, and I can feel the love of all things. And even if you weren't spiritual, I'll tell you, you felt the love of God. How do you explain to anybody if you suddenly have a realization, aha, an awareness, an awakening, that to be loved by the Creator is to be loved by every piece of matter in the universe? There is an experience when you walk into the woods, tree hugger, and you know it, that says not only you are one, but there's caring there. The caring is that you are part of the system. And the forest does not then point at you and say, stay away, you're evil. The forest welcomes you. The trees breathe and they give you oxygen. One of the most amazing experiences to walk into the rainforest. We've said this before, the greatest creation of oxygen comes from that which you call moss. There's more of it growing than there are leaves. And it coats the trees in the rainforest. When you walk in there, you feel so good. You are over-oxygenated. That's what you're feeling. Why would they give you so much oxygen? Dear ones, this is the lifeblood of your system. You oxygenate when you walk into the forest. The trees are greeting you in a certain way that says, you're welcome, you're welcome. And if you could at least begin to transfer that in the civilization that you live in the culture that you live in, even if you're mid-city and you cannot see bushes or trees for a long distance, even if your feet cannot touch dirt and they're only on cement, I will tell you this, that you can be in the forest. Because the very air that you're breathing came from the trees and the moss who say, I know you, I love you. And you are one with all things. And that is part of the creative source. Can you understand oneness to the degree that to be loved by God is to be loved by every piece of matter, anywhere? The Creator's matter knows your name. And this is why we had said so many times to those who look at God dimly through a glass in an older energy and paint a picture of what they understand from only their own experience, God then becomes a parent. And the only examples they've ever had of parenting is their own. And all through history then, God becomes a human parent. It's as good as it gets because they cannot fathom anything more than that. And you see the result of it because God has then become a dysfunctional parent to so many. The God who loves you beyond measure is the God who will then punish you beyond measure. It doesn't make sense. But there's no judgment in this because this came from an older energy. Before the energy started to develop and enhance itself so that you could see a little clearer through that veil. And the first thing you saw through the veil was not punishment or anger, but light. There are criticisms of those who believe what they believe in this very room, listening to this channel. And when they say you have no substance, you have no prophet, and you have no doctrine. So you just float around in la-la love land. God bless the floater. Because that floater has not just a tree hugger, he's a God hugger. One who understands that a prophet is not really necessary if you can emulate the Creator itself. And so you don't walk around like little gods. You create a oneness of the one God, and you participate in the beauty of it. And in the participation of the beauty of it, there then comes wisdom. And the wisdom starts to grow. The man in the chair 30 years ago had no idea about today. And in that growth that he had to learn to get out of the way of himself. He had to learn the difference between channeling information and ego. He had to make up his mind how he had to survive in the channeling experience. And it's different, dear ones, than if you were to survive in a channeling experience. He had love pouring into him, so strong that he couldn't talk. He couldn't think. And so he started writing it down instead because it was safer. He was afraid of what people would think. He made finally the books he had, and he made his name small enough that no one could see it, and he put it on the back. That was fear. It took him years to go beyond that. The human has to get out of the way and practice getting out of the way, and it takes practice over time. But I'll tell you what happens. The body starts to understand what you're doing. Dear ones, as you sit in front of me, are you aware that if you start the progress and the process of progress, of enlightenment, the body knows what you're doing? Every cell was made by the Creator. The patterning of the Creator is in you. Your innate knows who God is and your higher self is. All the things that you claim are higher within you are part of that creative source that you're trying to get to and understand better. And when you start the process, the body understands. And it starts to then give you an allowance for understanding. That's what happened to the man in the chair 30 years ago. That over time, he began to recognize the difference between himself and his consciousness and the pure consciousness that comes from the other side of the veil. And whereas in the beginning he was confused and had no idea, and his channeling was cryptic, didn't flow with long spaces, when he tried to channel in front of others, he sweat. So nervous, so anxious, working so hard. And then there was a time when it got easier and it got better for him. And then there was the time when he could finally relax and understand the difference. And then, a little over a decade ago, when I said to him in the shower, "Are you ready to go to the next level?" I could see his mind working and the great disappointment that he had when I asked him that, because he thought he was at the highest level. At some level, in linearity, in an older energy, perhaps. But I told him the next level is a meld. A meld so that when you walk around every single day, you're in channel. And the channel that you're in is not the kind in the chair you listen to now. It's the one that has one foot on the other side of the veil and one in this one. The one that walks around and sees humans differently. A meld where you don't have to really try as hard. Where your ego does not get in the way. It sits in the back seat and irritates you. But it never gets to drive the car. That's the meld that is coming to you. You ask linear questions, you always do. How can I do this? How can I do this? What do I do about the duality? What do I do about this and that? Never understanding that you're working too hard. You don't have to do much at all except to accept this wonderful meld that's coming your way through an evolved consciousness and through your innate that says, how would you like to walk all the time in a form of channel? And that form would be your higher self comes in and stays in. You know what meditation is? It's an effort to touch that part of yourself. And in that part you age less because you breathe correctly and all of that. And the longer you can stay in meditation, you know that, the better things are. And that, dear ones, is accurate and true in an older energy. Today, I will tell you the truth. That meditation is the attempt to get to that meld that my partner is in right now and stay there. You can do this by yourself without the effort of the meditation, and it's always there. You wake up with it, you go to sleep with it, because it becomes you, a constant state of awareness of what is around you and touching the other side of the veil. We have admonished those who call themselves New Age to stop chasing people away, to stop being strange and weird. And there's a reason why some of you do that. And that is so you be left alone. In your own way, to worship in your own way, to be your own spiritual person and not have those bother you. And now we have told you so many times, you accept this meld. You won't be weird. You'll walk around and you will look not only normal, but beyond normal. You'll have a love quotient, which is more than most have. And you'll be seen as loving and wise and safe to most people. The attributes of the masters who walked this planet is they were safe. People could approach them. They wanted to be with them. There was no competition of conversation. The masters of this earth had something in common, all of them. They listened. And when they listened, those who would talk to them knew they were getting through, and they were being loved every moment that they were being heard. This is the new human. The tree hugger doesn't have that. Not that much wrong with that, you know. That's almost all the way there. Without any spirituality, the tree hugger has it all. Now you add to that the knowledge of the spiritual soul that is involved, that you are. And now you know why the forest greets you. Did you know that Gaia was created for you? There are those who believe that humans are the worst things that ever happened to Gaia. You'll get over that, and you will learn the partnership as you stop polluting. But a truth that you should know is this, is Gaia was created for you. That's your best friend, this planet and all that it represents. And it's so close to the higher self that you want to touch. I close this message again with the knowledge that I'd like to give you and the wisdom I would like to give you. It says this: you are part of the system of beauty on this earth. You never, ever came to suffer. An old energy system will tell you that because that's all they knew. Be the ones to start something new. And that new something is self-sufficient God within, oneness with all things. It brings you to wisdom and a place of balance where anxiety and worry for you personally has got to get into the back seat. Because what you emanate in a meld with Spirit is beautiful and light-based. And that will be your normal. The pendulum is swinging from dark to light on this planet and illuminating so many things that are inappropriate. Let this be the same with you. And in that, you will see the inappropriate things in your own life, and you can drop them like a hot potato. You can go the other direction because you will be supported in that decision, and every cell of your body will know it. The trees will know it. The air you breathe will know it. Creation will know it. Let it be so. Leave differently than you came. And so it is.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. So often in these meetings, the end of the day is a channeling that is personal. It's often more for those in the group here live than anyone who might be listening. Indeed, those who listen will glean the energy, perhaps. Maybe there'll be some information that is new to them. I am so aware, dear ones, of who is here. Spirit knows who's listening, no matter when they listen. A year from now, 2 years, there is a potential of who is listening. Even now, I can tell you. It's in the future, but the potential is there, and Spirit knows the time is in this beautiful circle. But even though there is that, I want to speak to you here before me. Humans all. I have never been a human. There is enamorment, if you can call that, from this angelic source. Not just the love. I know how you tick. I know how you work. I know what you think. And that is why I'm here. To try to soothe the soul who wants to make up things, who wants to get involved perhaps in the dramas that are not even there. In order to help you across this beautiful time passage of the old energy to the new. My partner asked the question when he was fully aware that he would be channeling for the rest of his life. He asked me the question, why now? He said, why at this age? And I told him then there was no age. And it was the beginning of his teaching and his learning about his own body and about something that lurked within it, which is not understood but used so much by those who are sitting in the chairs. We have defined it in so many ways. We have put it
in ways that split it apart and put it back together. We've given it numbers of names, but the one you know is innate. We've defined where it goes in the scheme of the 9. We've told you where it goes in the scheme of the 3. Innate is so special for you. And innate is something that responds to consciousness. Let's start at the beginning. Every single human has an esoteric body that is called the innate. Would you say it was biological? It is linked to your biology, so much so that you call it the smart body. Is it linked to spirit? Yes. It is linked to that which is your higher self and also to the biology of your higher self, the pineal. Is it part of your heart and brain? Absolutely. Does it govern things? No. What it does is communicate. And so the innate is the great communicator of your body. It helps give you information and it also receives it. The body itself has its own healing mechanism. We've told you about the health template. We've told you about the genesis cells. We've given you information that the body stands ready to take information in through the innate. And then the innate communicates to the cells. The cells are always listening, and consciousness is the overview of all of it. Now, why I'm giving you this, which is a review, is because I would like to describe something that some of you are already doing. But it's so beautiful. It's an enhanced tool. In this age, dear ones, I'm going to give you information of an enhanced tool that you can use with innate. Some of you, as I say, will simply hear the definition of what you've already been doing. And for some of you, you need to hear this. And so you have the human body with this wonderful esoteric body called innate. Some would ask it, where is it? And the answer is everywhere. Is it the Merkaba of the body? No, but it is linked to it. So that smart body, which is the innate, is part of the bridge, you might say, between the 3D and the multi-D. It is that part of the body that communicates with all of the cells at once, if needed. It's the part of the body, literally, that can receive from you the profound consciousness and transform it to spontaneous remission. That is the innate. It's that part of the body that you can muscle test. It's the smart part. It's the smart part that responds to the tapping. It's the smart part that responds to that which is being interviewed by another human. Innate. Now I have a question for you. And it is a question that may be esoteric, but it has a very, very easy answer. The human being, biologically, may be out of balance. Perhaps that even creates a mental problem. Perhaps the human is in psychosis. Perhaps the human is so far out of balance that they've had to seek a healer of some kind. And there they lay on the table. Question: is the innate
also unbalanced? The answer, as you very well know, is it's always balanced. The innate is connected to Source. So it doesn't matter how out of balance the human being is. Innate is always pure, always ready. This is the reason, dear ones, affirmations work. For even if you are seeking balance and don't have it in some part of your body or your psyche or your consciousness, the secret to balance has always been the fact that you have something in you which is always balanced. And that is listening, and will bring you back into that place, whether it's health or mental or consciousness or fear. Now you know that when you open the meditation that you do, or you speak to God, you're dealing with another part of you which is always balanced, which is connected to Source and the higher self and the pineal and ready to go. This is the most beautiful engine of the human being that exists in you, because it is always balanced and always ready. There's two bridges. One is you to innate, and the other one is innate to spirit. Innate to spirit is always controlled by the energy of the planet. Did you get that? So if the planet is in a low state of energy, there's a veil. And as good as it wants to, innate can only go through that veil to the degree that you will allow it through the consciousness of the planet. That is shifting. So right away, I am telling you that the innate is able to cross that bridge through the pineal and the higher self to talk to spirit and get that which is what you deserve based upon the peace of God in you. The veil, as defined, is lifting slightly. It requires you, however, to cross the other bridge. And that's the one from you to innate. That's the hardest one. We've spoken of it before. It requires that you cognize the system. Simpler words. It requires you believe it. And that is difficult because that has not necessarily been taught in this particular way. How many times have you heard, in order to get to God, you've got to suffer a little? You just broke the bridge. How many times have you been told that you better get on your knees because God is up there and you're down here and you're not worthy? Well, if you believed it, you just broke the bridge. The bridge expects you to understand there is magnificence here. To raise up out of your seat, to be proud enough to say, "Dear innate," and then state who you are. Give the affirmations, knowing that you're worthy, because you have inside you God. The energy of what you would say is the Christ itself is in you. This is taught here. It's written on the walls here. And maybe that's why you're here this day. To know that God dwells in you to such a degree that the bridges can be built so easily. But that's not what I want to tell you. Question. If a human is out of balance, is innate out of balance? No, innate is perfect. Innate is pure. And so item number one, you can heal yourself through innate. But this is the question that has been on the minds of healers for so long. And the question is that if your innate is in balance,
can you somehow transfer that to an unbalanced human being? It's well known that it is difficult for any human to muscle test someone else with their muscles. Can you muscle test with your innate someone else? The jury is still out because you're not really asking the right question. Let me tell you something that healers know. There's some of you, no matter what profession you say you're in, who are soul communicators. You'll step into the room before the patient opens their mouth. You know what's wrong. Medical intuitives can look at a human being and know what's wrong. By the way, they also can see what's right because they see a picture. The picture is not in 3D or 2D or even 4D. It is something that is perceived by their innate. So suddenly I'm telling you something that you already know, but I've just given you the process. Your innate can sense someone else's innate and give you information about it. Now that's called a gift. But what if this gift were starting to expand? What if it was expanding to the degree that it starts to involve your intuition? So that you could literally stand in front of somebody else and know what they're thinking, or what their unbalance is, or what to say to them to give them peace. This is an expanded gift of healing, but it goes beyond that. What I'm telling you is this, is that your innates are starting to overlap because you're allowing it through a higher consciousness, and the timing of this shift is starting to give you an enhanced ability to do this. I have just given you the secret of an enhanced, evolved human being and why you will never go to war someday. Because you will be expanding this so that you'll feel the other people, and so you will have the compassion to know what they're going through and what they're like. Instead of an old way of wondering, of trying and tricking, or surrounding yourself and competing. What if there comes a time when compassion is something the whole group feels for one another instantly just because you're together? Ask a healer in this room, is it possible that you can sense what's wrong and what's right with the patient? And they'll say, yes, I do it all the time. Now extend that. Make the field bigger. If you don't think you've had the gift, I will tell you it's sitting there waiting for you to cross the bridge. And you'll say, well, I'm not a healer. Dear ones, what I am saying to you is, wouldn't it be nice to feel what the other person next to you is about, so that you can give them the right information, so you can give them the right emotions, so you can create coherence together. You're not muscle testing your innate for someone else. You're actually combining the fields of two innates so that you can sense what they sense, but so that they can also sense the balance you have. It helps the healer to know where to go, what to touch, what to say. It helps the medical intuitive to identify and help heal. What if it stopped being an extraordinary gift and instead became common? It's happening. Healers in the room are going to hear it, in a way they've never done before. They're going to have an enhanced feeling of their senses. They'll be able to know things that they haven't known before because the senses that they didn't think were involved suddenly are. Some will smell it. This is an enhancement of a human being who will start to evolve with everything you have. But the best one that's coming is the combining of innates in such a way that there is understanding and communication and compassion between souls. Do you think that would help you in the workplace? Oh, yes. Do you think it would help you understand your boss? Not just understand, but be compassionate. In order to give that boss balance, understanding, productivity, because of that. Do you think it might help you with your children? Oh, I have something to tell you about your children. They already have it. That is why some adults don't want to be with certain young people at a certain age. Did you know that? Because those young people look right through you. You know what they're thinking. You're exposed. They already know. Some of you have experienced this. It's an uncomfortable feeling, isn't it? That's what I'm talking about. But they're not looking at you in judgment. They're looking at the compassion factor. Do you think it could help you in relationships with your partner? I know who's here. Listen. Do you think you have a partner you've distanced yourself so far from that there's no hope? I know who's here. Listen, I know who's here. I want to tell you that spark of compassion is still there. It still is there. To be able to combine that, if you choose to, with understanding and peace, it's like reaching out and holding their hand for the first time. Because that's pure. And that's possible. It's new. It's part of the evolution of humankind. I have seen this before. Dear ones, there have those who have had a question that really hasn't been asked. Kryon, were you with the Pleiadians when they went through this? Was there a Kryon channel for the Pleiadians? Yes. Yes. And yes. Wasn't called Kryon because they didn't speak your language. Difficult to pronounce because they had vocal cords that were different, split into two, making double sounds in speech at the same time. But dear ones, I was there and I watched what you are going through today back then. Did the planet that seeded them go through it? Yes. Was there a Kryon? Yes. What I'm telling you is this. This is beautiful. There is precedent. It's not new. I have seen it. All of you have free choice. And the free choice just tempers whether you believe in the bridge, whether you'll use the bridge, or how quickly you'll understand the bridge. But the bridge is there. It's there to be crossed, just like for all of those races on the other planets before you. Biology, a little different. Humanoid, yes. But dear ones, the innate was the same because it's connected to spirit. God is God. And they had the same God that you have. That's why their graduate planet was so beautiful, because it exemplified that love that you feel right now. The seed that was put into you by the Pleiadians to give you 23 three-dimensional pairs of chromosomes and one multi-dimensional pair, number 24, is the Pleiadian. And that is the same God that created this planet. Is in them, is in you. And the one that helped create this beautiful ground and the village that you're in. I've seen this before. And all I'm telling you is this is the beginning for old souls of a new time. Question, is it too new for you? Will you cross the bridge? Will you wait till you come back when it's easier? Or will you take the gauntlet that I've thrown down to you and said, what is age? Do you have any idea how your body is designed? If you had an idea, it's not designed to age. Are you aware of that? It rejuvenates itself. That's not a body designed to age. And the only thing that ages you is that DNA which is only working at about 33 to 34%. That makes the replication of your cells less than it should be. Where the telomeres start to shorten instead of staying the same length. That is changeable with the bridge. You cross the bridge, you start talking to innate, you give it instructions, stop aging. And you can watch it in the mirror. You can watch your friends who don't have this information that you wish did and won't have it. They will age much faster than you. I throw down the gauntlet and say, do it and see if I'm right. Can you slow down the body clock? Yes. Hundreds of years. Your body is designed to last hundreds of years. That's the plan. When you start aging less as a civilization, you'll have all kinds of medical journals. Be front page. What's happening to humanity? Why is it that you're living so much longer with so fewer drugs? And that magazine cover is coming. It takes a while. Your body is so ready for you, for a consciousness that is grown up. It's time for the grown up to come out of there and talk to the bridge and say, I know you. Let's get going. I sit in a magnificent place designed for channelers, designed for listeners, in a chapel that was built for prayer, for an age that the creators actually saw coming. And so it is.